Before we dive into this dark story of betrayal and confinement, remember, if you think you can handle the truth behind America's most dangerous walls, hit subscribe, drop a like, and let's step inside the one place where fear never sleeps. The sirens wailed first, long metallic screams that echoed through the stone corridors of Redgate Penitentiary, a fortress buried deep in the desert of Nevada. Floodlights cut through the darkness, casting harsh white beams over the yard. Inmates froze mid-motion. Guards shouted for lockdown. Somewhere in cell block D, someone was dying. By the time Warden Monroe reached the scene, the metallic scent of blood had already filled the air. Inside cell 42, Marcus Reed, an ex-gang leader serving life for armed robbery and double homicide, lay slumped against the concrete wall. His throat was cut clean, no sign of a struggle. The only sound came from the dripping, steady, deliberate, like a ticking clock marking the end of something. Next to him sat his cellmate, Daniel Crane, a quiet man in for tax fraud. He stared blankly at the floor, his hands trembling, his face pale under the fluorescent light. "I didn't do this," he whispered, but no one believed him, not yet. Redgate wasn't just any prison. It was where the system buried the men too dangerous, too violent, or too notorious for the outside world. The place had a rule. You come in breathing. What happens after that, no one's business. Detective Laura Jensen of the Nevada State Bureau arrived within an hour. She'd handled cartel murders, biker wars, and cold cases, but nothing prepared her for what she found here. The guards' eyes followed her every step. The inmates whispered her name through the bars like it carried a curse. And when she saw Marcus's body, positioned neatly, hands folded across his chest, she knew this wasn't a random killing. She said quietly, "This is a message." The autopsy confirmed something odd. No defensive wounds, no forced entry. But under Marcus's fingernails, they found a tiny shred of red fabric, a thread that didn't belong to any inmate uniform. And in his mouth, stuffed between his teeth, was a scrap of paper with 4 words written in smudged ink. He should have stayed silent. By morning, rumors had consumed the prison. Some said Marcus had been working with the FBI. Others claimed he'd uncovered a secret network inside Redgate, guards trading contraband, maybe worse. But as Jensen dug deeper, she realized the real danger wasn't in the rumors. It was in how everyone, from the lowest inmate to the highest-ranking officer, seemed terrified to talk. Then, during her 3rd day of interviews, a guard named Harris slipped her a note. No words, just a drawing of a key and a single number, B7. That night, as the power flickered and thunder rolled across the desert, Jensen descended into the lower levels of Redgate, the abandoned Block B, sealed off for decades. The hallway was cold, silent, and wet with condensation. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. She reached door B7. It was padlocked, rusted shut, but behind it, she heard it, faint breathing. When the maintenance crew pried it open the next morning, Jensen's flashlight caught the outline of something impossible. A hidden room, untouched for years. On the wall, scratched into the concrete, were the words, "They never left." And in the corner, wrapped in a torn red blanket, was a second body. Detective Laura Jensen had seen corpses before, but nothing like the one in cell B7. The body was mummified, wrapped tight in a red blanket, its skin drawn thin over bone. The forensics team estimated it had been there over 10 years. Yet, on its chest, tucked under a strip of cloth, was a laminated ID card belonging to Officer Michael Lane, a corrections guard who'd vanished from Redgate in 2013. The official report had said he quit, that he walked away, but here he was, buried inside the walls he once patrolled. Jensen's pulse quickened. She scanned the surrounding cell, faded graffiti, scattered cigarette butts, and in the corner, a single word scratched repeatedly into the wall, "Deliverance." Whoever did this didn't just kill him, they buried a truth. By sunrise, the warden called for silence. The discovery never made it to the prison logs. Jensen was ordered to stand down pending federal review, but she wasn't done. She knew Redgate was hiding something bigger, something old, buried beneath layers of fear and corruption. She paid a visit to Daniel Crane, the cellmate from the first murder. He looked worse now, dark circles under his eyes, lips trembling. "You don't get it. Marcus wasn't killed because of who he was killed because of what he found." "What did he find?" Jensen pressed. Crane's eyes darted to the security camera in the corner. Then he whispered, "Redgate's not just a prison, it's a cover." That night, Jensen received a call from Officer Harris, the same guard who'd given her the note with the key symbol. His voice was shaking. "Meet me by the laundry tunnel, midnight. Don't tell anyone." She arrived under a sky split with lightning. The tunnel was damp, the stench unbearable. Harris was there, flashlight trembling. "This place, Block B, it used to be storage, but back then, they brought in inmates who weren't on any record. Ghost transfers, people the government wanted erased."
"Erased?" Jensen echoed. He nodded. "Executions. Off the books. Redgate was a testing ground for isolation techniques. They called it Project Deliverance." Before she could respond, a noise echoed behind them. Heavy footsteps, slow and deliberate. Harris turned, raising his flashlight. "Who's there?" No answer. The light flickered, and then went out. In the darkness, there was a muffled grunt, the sound of metal striking bone. Jensen fell back, drawing her weapon, but by the time she found the light again, Harris was on the ground, a thin wire cutting deep across his throat. He was gone. Her hands shook as she aimed into the shadows. A faint figure moved at the far end of the tunnel, broad shoulders, gloved hands, face masked by darkness. It paused for a heartbeat, then whispered something that froze her blood. Deliverance never ended. Then it was gone. Jensen stumbled out of the tunnel, drenched in sweat and dirt. The next morning, when she reported the attack, the warden dismissed her claims. There were no records of Harris being on duty that night. No body, no security footage. It was as if he'd never existed. But Jensen wasn't hallucinating. Later that day, she received an envelope slipped under her motel door. Inside was a single photo, grainy, taken in the old Redgate basement. It showed 3 guards standing beside a stretcher. And on that stretcher was Marcus Reed's body hours before he was found dead in cell block D. Detective Laura Jensen didn't sleep that night. The photo burned in her mind. Marcus Reed's lifeless body staged before the prison even called it in. Someone at Redgate had rewritten time itself, and she was running out of allies. She spent the next day combing through archived personnel files, only to find entire sections wiped clean. Officers who once worked on Special Unit B were either retired early, missing, or dead. Every one of them tied to a classified program under the Department of Corrections, Project Deliverance. It took a call to an old contact at the Bureau to get anything concrete. Project Deliverance, he whispered, wasn't rehabilitation, it was control. They took the most violent inmates and experimented on sensory deprivation, mind isolation. Redgate volunteered as a pilot site. It went dark in 2013 after an internal whistleblower vanished. Officially, it never existed. The whistleblower's name, Officer Michael Lane, the same man Jensen had found mummified in cell B7. Everything clicked. Marcus Reed must have uncovered traces of the project, maybe through old records hidden in the system, and someone inside Redgate killed him to bury it again.
But who? Jensen returned to the prison under the pretext of collecting her belongings, but she was really there for one last look. She retraced her steps to Block B, the sealed corridor where it had all begun. The air was heavy, almost electric. A generator hummed somewhere behind the walls. She followed the noise until she reached a metal door marked Maintenance Access Restricted. It was locked, but her badge somehow still worked. Inside, rows of monitors flickered to life. Dozens of camera feeds filled the room. Cells, corridors, solitary chambers. Some marked live feed, others labeled archive footage. And then she saw it. A feed labeled Deliverance Room. It showed 6 men in orange jumpsuits sitting perfectly still, eyes open but vacant. Electrodes lined their temples. Machines tracked every heartbeat, every blink. None of them moved, not even when a guard entered the frame. The guard was Warden Monroe. He leaned toward the one prisoner, whispered something inaudible, then turned off the camera. Jensen's breath hitched. She snapped photos with her phone, but before she could leave, the lights cut out. The door slammed shut behind her. A voice echoed through the intercom, low, calm, familiar. "Detective Jensen, you've seen too much." It was Monroe. "You think you're uncovering corruption, but Deliverance saved lives. These men were monsters. We made them quiet. We made them useful." She gritted her teeth. "You murdered them." "Correction, we perfected them." There was a click, metal on metal, the faint hiss of gas. Jensen dropped to her knees, coughing, clawing for the handle. Her flashlight rolled across the floor, landing on a stack of old photo files, images of inmates, guards, and dates that stretched back decades. Through blurred vision, she saw one last image on the floor. It was her. A surveillance photo from 3 days ago, marked in red ink. Phase 3 candidate. Then, everything went dark.
3 weeks later, the Nevada State Bureau quietly shut down its investigation into Redgate Penitentiary. The official statement claimed no evidence of misconduct. Detective Jensen's disappearance was ruled voluntary leave. But a leaked document surfaced months later. A blurred image taken from a hidden camera inside a medical room. 6 figures sat motionless in chairs, electrodes wired to their heads. In the far corner, partially obscured by shadow, was a 7th chair, recently occupied. And taped to the screen was a single note, written in smudged ink. "Deliverance continues." If this story shook you, remember, every prison has secrets, but not all of them stay locked away. Subscribe, because next time, the truth might be closer than you think.